Welcome to a Toast to Truth, where we share our experiences dealing with emotional, mental, and or financial frustrations in business. Have you ever gone into hiding after a business flop? This is Season 2, Episode 7, Launch, Success, and Flop. Today's special guest co-host is Ashanti Atkins, the T-shirt diva of Personal Touch Custom Print. So I want to welcome Ashanti to today's episode. Hey, thank you for joining.
Thank you. Hello, everyone.
So before we jump into today's topic and everything, I always like to tell people how I know my special guest co-host. So Ashanti, outside of family, is probably the person I've known the longest as far as any of my guests on, Season 1 and Season 2. We met in college. What were we, like, 19, 20 or something like that?
Yeah, we were very young.
Yeah, I can't even remember. We were young. We've known each other for a very long time. Our moms are really good friends, and so it's just great and amazing to think that maybe 12, 13 years ago, here we were, like teenagers, early 20s, and now we're both entrepreneurs. So it's just a wild, crazy, crazy life, twist of events and stuff like that. So I'm so excited to have someone that I've known for such a really long time be a guest on the podcast. But before we get to today's topic, I want us to kind of pop some bubbly. What we're going to do is share, our celebration that we have. So I will go first.
Okay.
So this week, my popping bubbly moment is curiosity. I am celebrating my curiosity because if I was not curious, I would not have attempted to do this podcast. If I was not curious, I would not have attempted to start Women Are Game Changers or Fusion Tour or get the Houston African American Bloggers Association together. So I'm celebrating my curiosity because sometimes curiosity leads to good things. Other times it leads to lessons. But I'm going to say good things for this one. What about you, Ashanti? What is your popping bubbly moment this week?
I am popping bubbly that it is the end of school year because I started homeschooling my oldest son in January, and I found a balance between managing home, a business, and homeschooling him and going back to get my bachelor's degree.
Yeah, you are busy. I can attest to that. My sister homeschooled for 3 years, and so I know what it's like trying to manage. I've watched her trying to manage the household, homeschooling, but she homeschooled all 3 of her kids. Yeah, and then she was in school to become a health coach. So pretty much what you did, she did.
Right.
I have seen it. And then, my sister likes to work out as well. She's a health coach. So she likes to work out and tries to work out, before they get up in the morning. So to do all that, and I'm sitting here like, it's 6:30. Who is bothering me at 6:30 in the morning? Like, brain is not functioning yet. So let's hop into today's topic because, Ashanti just gave what a lot of moms who may be listening deal with. You may not be homeschooling, but you may have a lot of things that you're juggling at the same time. So that kind of really goes with our topic, launch, success, and flop. What happens, when you have so much going on, but you're trying to launch a new program or a new product or even a business? How do you manage all that? So I've I've had good stories and I've had not so good stories. I've had more not so good stories when it comes to launching things. In particular, virtual trainings, webinars, whatever you want to call them, mine do not work. Like, they are flops every time. And I'm just sitting here, like, online courses, I'm sitting here like, I don't know why I can't do this correctly. Like, I'm doing all the pre-marketing. I'm doing exactly the strategy that seems to be working for everyone else. I'm like, I'm a teacher. I should be able to teach people. But when I get them on, they all enjoy it. But it's just the whole fact that I can't ever market it correctly. Now, when it comes to events, I have no problem. No problem. I mean, when Fusion Tour launched, boom, we were selling out in cities. I had never even been to the state, okay? So I'm sitting here like, if I could sell out for Fusion, why can't I sell out on online? You don't have to leave your house. You don't even have to get dressed. You just listen. Right. So, I mean, we've all been there. I've had very, very public flops. And so the thing, the question I asked, have you ever gone into hiding after a business flop? I didn't actually go into hiding. I just said, okay, moving on to the next thing. Right. And for those who listened to episode 6, where we talked about you didn't learn the lesson and that's why you keep repeating the same business mistake. Yeah, I kept repeating the same business mistake. So that lesson kept being repeated throughout business. But now I'm more wise, more aware of what works for me and what doesn't work for me. Even this year, even 2016, I tried to do a business, a webinar. And I got attendees. The thing was, everybody knows in April, weather was crazy here because of all the rain, the flooding. So let's just say the internet kept going in and out. I was getting message after message. I can't see you. I can't hear you. It keeps going black. I'm like, oh, my God, this is the absolute worst. Now, mind you, I had promoted it in 10 Facebook groups. So that's thousands of people knew this was happening. So for all of that promotion I did, for all of the work I did, and then to have that happen, I was just like, thank you. This is exactly what I needed to say. I should not do webinars anymore. Like, lesson learned. It's not for me.
Right.
So I know I'm not the only one who's had it, and for me, I may be upset at the, right when it's happening, but when I think about it, I'm like, oh, well, I'm going to move on to something else. I have a million and one ideas, right? Like, Ashanti, you're a creative person, so you always have ideas floating around. So, like, people like us, we can't really harp on what's not working because we're like, well, let me try something else,
That's true. That is true.
So you have physical products, and I'm moving into the physical product realm. So what was it like when you launched, your custom T-shirt business? Because I know that wasn't easy because you had to have equipment. You had to do a whole lot. So what was it like to launch something on that level? Because it's not like a webinar, where you don't have to put too much money out there. But everybody knows you didn't do well. But anyway.
It was, in the beginning, overwhelming because everything I purchased, all of my equipment outside of my building, that too, I'm paying for out of pocket. I did not get any loans. And I was working at the time, and it became, as I said, it became overwhelming because I was trying to figure out when was the perfect time to put in, honestly, my 2 weeks notice at this place because I was becoming unhappy with it while I was trying to step into something that I've always wanted to do. But over time, it got better. it got better over time, but in the beginning, I began to question if it was something that I really wanted to do.
Okay, I mean, that's a really good point, because some people can be overwhelmed, but then you say you started to question it. And, you know, some people may say, oh, well, if you're questioning it, that's not your purpose. Oh, my God, right. I am so sick of this whole purpose thing, because people have misconstrued purpose. Okay, I'm going to go off on a little rant here, so people just bear with me. Purpose does not always mean that's what you need to make money from.
Right.
Okay? It does not always mean that's what you need to put everything to the side and run off and do. Sometimes your purpose is something you do outside of work because it's something you enjoy. Like for me, I know my purpose is to help women. Now, how I help women changes from season to season. It's not going to be the same. It has not been the same in like 14 years, okay? So I want you guys to get that. Your purpose is not going to look the same every single year the rest of your life. So if my purpose is to help women, you know, Women Are Game Changers was one aspect of that. They wanted more of encouragement and cheerleading and patting on the back. No, that's not what I do. That is not my forte. That is not my strength. So I had to move on. That season was over. You know, when I started feeling like that was more of what they wanted. I mean, Ashanti's known me a long time. I'm a straight shooter. I'm very direct. And I'm not trying to be rude or mean to people. I just say what's on my mind, how I say it, and leave it at that. Like, I'm so lazy. I don't have time to figure out how to sugarcoat what I need to say. Because to me, that takes way too much time. So I'm just going to tell you and move on. You know, and if you speak that way to me, I'm okay with that. I'm not going to go and act like a turtle and go in my shell. But what I want people to understand about this whole purpose, sometimes you're chasing a purpose that is not even for you, but it's what you've been told that is for you.
Exactly.
And the reason you're chasing it is because you don't know who you are. Once you know who you are, once you know what you like, once you know your interests, then you will be able to discover your purpose. But the problem is too many of us are chasing things because we see stuff online, we see people making all this money, we see all this stuff happening.
Right.
And then we're like, I'm miserable because that's not your purpose.
Right.
And once you know, once you know your purpose, it gets a lot easier. Like I said, I know mine is helping women. But guess what? My business is not a helping women type of business. My business is to make money. So I am selling journals. I am, selling my Truth Power sessions. I have the Houston African American Bloggers Group. That's a co-ed group, so it's not me just helping women bloggers. I have all this other stuff going on. But guess what? I am part of a team going to Haiti where we're going to do mission work. Now I get to do my purpose work, where we're going to go for a week and we're going to go and help people. Now I get to do my purpose. So all this other stuff that I'm doing are things that I like. They are in my skill set. They are in my talent pool. But they're not, every aspect of it is not 100% my purpose. So I want people to get that. You don't have to do your purpose 24/7, like some of our purposes aren't financially going to take care of us. I've learned that. So you have to do things that you also enjoy to make money from so you can fund your purpose. So for me, going to Haiti is something I've always wanted to do. Since I was a little girl, I've been enamored with that country. So for me to actually go and spend a week and do mission work, I'm excited about it because guess what? That falls into my purpose. So, okay. So enough of my little rant, but I just had to say that because if I heard purpose one more time and it's just misleading to people, and I'm like, this is why people go broke. They're paying to chase this purpose that's not even for them. All they have to do is literally journal or do some deep introspective thinking, and you will start discovering what you like, who you are, and your purpose will be revealed to you.
Very true.
But yeah, okay, so back to our topic. Back to our topic about launching. Okay, so as entrepreneurs, think about everything you see online. Like people say, oh, you can launch a business in 30 days and start making money and all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
You can and you can't. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I launched Women Are Game Changers, not even 6 weeks later, got my first paid client. So it can be done. It can be done, people. However, the amount of money you make is varied. It really depends on what you sell,
right?
How you launched it, if you have a reputation already, if you even know your market, if the market is ready to buy at that time. So it's a lot of variables to launching, your business, your program, or whatever. So don't get misled to think that you can immediately, I have this idea, and in 30 days I'm going to launch it, and I'm going to make $10,000. What they're not telling you is that it took them a while to find their formula to have that type of success.
Right.
Because so Shanti, you do T-shirts. Now think about it. A lot of people do T-shirts, right?
And I paid attention to it, and then
he paid attention.
I paid attention, and I heard of a few people while I was researching doing it before I even started. But once I started, it's like a whole slew of people. Like, well, I do T-shirts too. I had a neighbor that I've known this person since I was a little girl, and once I started my business, he was like, well, I do the same thing you do. I was like, well, okay. And it was like,
it's almost like competition now, like out of the blue. And I don't like the word haters. I think that's been said. I think people are just confused when they see someone else doing something successful because they haven't figured out what it is they're supposed to do. They're confused, and so they lash out. I don't use hater. I just say they're confused. But go ahead.
Very confused.
Yes.
It was with my neighbor and I. He didn't think to do all of the getting the building and building clientele or customers until he saw that I was doing pretty good in it, and I was like, well, now I have to watch you from a distance because I don't know what you have planned if you're trying to
attack. Yeah.
Right.
And you made a very good point that I don't think people bring up. I know when it happened to me the first time, I was taken aback. It's almost like you're being stabbed in the back because this is somebody you know. It's not the same feeling, people, when it's someone who you don't know. Like someone out of the blue, they're doing something similar. Okay, whatever. They don't know me, so they don't know what was happening. But if I go and tell someone I know that I'm doing something, and then they go and do something similar, you're like, were you always planning that, or are you doing that now because you're like, okay, well, she's doing it, I could do it too.
Right.
And I had, it was actually Brandy from episode 1. She told me because I was venting to her about all of a sudden I'm seeing a lot of people I know pop up with podcasts all of a sudden. And she said, well, maybe they've been thinking about it, Vernetta, for a really long time. And I said, okay, I will give them that. Because I have been working on, it took me 8 months to create my journal. But I started sharing about journaling in, January of 2016, January of this year. So I'm like, it wasn't like people didn't know I was going to do it. But all of a sudden, I started seeing, can you hear me now?
I can.
Okay. So, I started seeing a lot of people put out journals. And so I was venting to Brandy, about this. I'm like, here I am. I had already put the word out that I was going to put out a journal, that I have this podcast, and now, like, it's not like these are random people. These were, like, Facebook friends. These were people I know personally doing similar things. So I was a little taken aback by it.
Right.
But when she mentioned they could have been thinking about doing it, and then they got inspired because of you, I really had to rethink how I was looking at the situation. So I took it as, okay, maybe they needed to see someone they knew do something to encourage them that it's okay for them to do it. So that's why I don't say people have haters. That's why I say they're confused, because maybe they didn't know how, or they weren't brave enough to do it. But when they saw you or I or someone else they know, get out there, then they're like, okay, now I can do it.
Right.
So they became, quote unquote, less confused or whatever. We'll put it that way. But my point, my point in saying this, because you'll by this point in time, y'all know I can go on these story tangents because I've had a lot of experiences. And I always have a point. So my point in saying this is, even though you launch something and you see someone else launching something, don't shrink the scope of how you're launching. So let me explain what that means.
Okay.
Say, because I wrote a blog post on it. If you guys read my blog, it came out May 15th, 2016. That was the blog post. Are you emotionally molesting your success? And the reason I wrote it that way, because a lot of times, if Ashanti had done her research and she saw that there was this big T-shirt company in Louisiana that was somewhat, say, in 50 miles of her, and she was like, oh, well, they're bigger than me, so I can't launch my business because I would never make money, she would be emotionally molesting her success because she's now basing what she can and cannot do off of someone else. So that's the point I'm trying to make. Just because you are launching something doesn't mean you need to stop or change things because someone else is doing something similar. Now, on the flip side, if you are out there first and someone does something, don't change because someone else is coming to do something similar. You stick with the plan, the strategy you created.
Right.
So I know that was a tangent, but I hope you guys got something from that. Like, don't stop just because other people are doing what you are doing, okay?
Right.
So that's what I wanted to say. So if our topic is launch, success, and flop, you're going to flop if you take your eyes off of your own strategy because you're now focused on what other people are doing, and then it's going to get you distracted and off task. Now, Ashanti, has that ever happened to you? And we've all gotten distracted, people. I've gotten distracted. I have 100 stories I could share. But have you ever gotten distracted where you're sitting there, you've been at it a while, and then you see someone else, and you're like, they seem to be doing, and I say seem because, those highlight reels on Facebook and Instagram, they make people look like they balling, and they may not be.
So, and I have been at that point where I've seen other people, like I said, my neighbor and a few other people start things. And I'll be honest with you, I completely shut down for a month. And I called it my mental vacation because I felt like I needed to get my thoughts together and figure out why was I focusing so much on, or why was I upset? Because I'm not going to lie, I was upset. I was like, well, he's been doing this for so long. Why would you wait until now when I just started doing it to go out and say, hey, I'm going to do a Facebook business page, and I'm going to do a website, I'm going to get a building and all of this. And like you said, maybe I inspired them. And, yes, it took me 30 whole days to get over it. So I did have a point where I did shut down because I was so focused on what everyone else was doing and not focused on building my own business.
And I mean, it happens. To this day, even to this day, it still happens with me. And I'll give an example. So I'm over the Houston African American Bloggers Association, long name, right? Mm-hmm. So try typing that in the email, Anyway, so I'm over the group. We had, some people who left the group, not a big deal. They started another group and then added me to that Facebook group. And I'm thinking to myself, why would you leave a group and then start another one that was very similar to what you left and then added me to that group?
Right.
So I was just perplexed because my thinking was, why couldn't you just, contribute to the group you were already a part of?
Right.
So it took one of the members to tell me, like, you can't worry about the people who left. You have to worry about moving us forward. And so that is what I'm doing with the group. We have a lot going on. We have our annual boot camp, August 6th. We have, the group is moving on. We are legal in the state of Texas. Like, we've done the paperwork. We have bylaws. Like, we're moving forward. We're a legit organization. We're not just a Facebook group.
Okay.
And so I think that could have been why some people were hesitant, because we're no longer just playing around on Facebook, posting stuff in the group. Like, we're legit. We
right.
Now we'll have to start paying franchise tax to the state of Texas. That like, it's real. It got real.
Right.
like it's just got real with the group. So I can see that. However, I was really upset because there was this company, and they've known me for a while, and they had this event, and they didn't invite any of the bloggers in my group. And I was just like, really? Wow, okay. But they're going to be real quick to want us to do something for them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, with the group, we are technically still in launch mode, okay? And we officially became a legal group January 2016, but it started as a Facebook group in 2012.
Okay.
Now, it wasn't something I started. I ended up taking it over in June 2015. So from June 2015 to January 2016, myself and my co-organizer, we worked on establishing a direction, a strategy, what we wanted to be known for. We had a boot camp to kind of get us out there. So the second one will be this year in 2016. We formalized everything. We added a third person to our leadership team. So, I mean, when we say launch, from June 2015 to January 2016, that's how long it took us to plan the launch of the Houston African American Bloggers Association. So I don't want people to think, oh, I have an idea, and next week I'm going to launch a business.
Right.
You can do that. I mean, you can. I did that with I did it with Women Game Changers. Like, I was in the middle of Rosetta Thurman's 31 Days to Reset Your Life Challenge, and it was like day 17 or 18. And I was like, oh, I'll start a blog. So I got online and I said, how do you start a blog? So I bought my domain, and then I got on to the hosting company, and I started crying because it was like 1-something in the morning. And they were like, ma'am, are you okay? And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, and I just wanted to blog. So they're calm, and trying to walk me through putting my domain on the hosting and all of that stuff. And so I launched. I literally launched within 2 hours of me coming up with the name for Women Are Game Changers. So that was a quick launch. With the Houston African American Bloggers Association, that was like a 7-month plan before we launched, before we actually turned in the paperwork with the state.
Okay.
And so, I mean, and it was quick. The state approved us quickly. They sent us our tax ID numbers. I'm like, oh, they must want money. But then again, it was January, and so nobody was really doing anything because everybody's trying to wait for their little tax refunds and everything.
Right.
So I guess we put ourselves in at a good time. But I said all this to say, it took my co-organizer and I like 7 months to plan that launch. And we're still in the launch mode because we're still not well known enough, or if my members would have been invited to that event that I'm kind of upset that they weren't invited to.
Right.
So we're still in the whole, I wouldn't say, it definitely has not been a flop, but we're still going towards our success with that launch.
Right.
Now, I really want people to understand that you can do a quick launch like I did with Women Are Game Changers. I mean, in 2 hours, I had the blog up. We were running within 6 weeks. We had our first paid client. Like, things were moving really, really fast with that company. With Houston African American Bloggers Association, it's not going as fast. And so I do get a little frustrated. You know, like what Ashanti said, you start to think, you know, am I doing the right thing? But then when you have members who are getting stuff from it, you know, we provide trainings, we have all this stuff. And when you have members who are paying their dues and they feel that it's worth the money, then you're like, I got to keep going and I got to make sure that they are getting their money's worth.
Right.
So it can feel overwhelming. It can feel a little bit, you know, frustrating at times because it's going longer. It's going much, much longer, you know, than what you plan. But it just happens, you know. Some businesses take 2 hours to launch. Some businesses take 7 months.
Right.
7 months to even get it together, you know.
Right.
So let's talk about that because I know there are some people who may be more into it's taking them a lot longer and how would they feel, because the whole gist of this podcast is, you know, we're talking about the emotional, mental, and financial frustrations. Now, with both Women Are Game Changers and the Houston African American Bloggers Association, it didn't cost me much money to start. Like for the group, the association, literally, I think the fee was like $35 or something like that. I mean, that's how much it costs, you know, to fill out what we went in as a legal entity.
Right.
I didn't, you know, so it wasn't expensive at all for us to launch. With my personal blog, you know, I bought a domain, bought hosting. That was less than $50.
Right.
And I got that money right back within 6 weeks with the client. So I was good on that. So I don't know how I always seem to launch stuff that doesn't take a whole lot of money. On the flip side, I don't know, these webinars seem to cost me more time and money than anything.
Right.
But with you, Ashanti, it was different, you know, because you had to buy a building. You had to buy equipment. So for you can definitely share with, you know, the listeners what it's like when you have to come up with more than $50 to launch a business, because they have all those articles on Inc. and whatever. Start a business less than $100. It is doable, but not everybody has a business that they could start for less than $100.
It is a headache because I'm like you. I have so many ideas and things that I want to do, but I have to stop myself because it's like, okay, Ashanti, you have to get the right equipment that you need, and that equipment is well over $10,000. And then if you were to get it, you have to think about, I have to think about who I'm marketing to. And you have to think, well, are you going to get your $10,000 back? Are you going to make it back in a timely manner so that the equipment can pay for itself? But it's a headache when you're paying for everything. And I really, my last resort is business loans. I'm trying my best not to get any. So, yeah.
Okay, so what we're going to do is take a quick break because Shanti brought up something very important, business loans. And I'm going to share with you guys how I funded a whole tour without a business loan, without coming out of my own pocket, and with other people's money, okay? So we're going to take a sip, we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back, and we're going to talk about the money part of, launching your business program, whatever. Ready to face the truth in your business? Schedule a truth power session. I act as your sounding board, giving you feedback, critiques, suggestions, while teaching you how to mentally detox using journaling. Go to BernettaRFrainey.com/truthconfidant. And don't forget to pre-order your The Truth Confidant Journal. Okay, so we are back, and we're going to talk about the money aspect of launching something. Because Ashanti made a really good point. She does personalized T-shirt, and not just T-shirts. She also, I've seen her do like bags and some other things. But the equipment she mentioned she needed is $10,000, and that, I would say that's probably average if you are buying your own equipment and not using someone else's.
Right.
Now, when I had Fusion Tour, when we had Fusion here, it was just here in Houston, so we were just traveling around the city, hosting it in different places. We didn't really need much money because I was able to figure out how to negotiate, venue spaces, and I didn't really have to pay for marketing because I had a pretty well-known name, and so I didn't have a problem here. But here I am, other cities were asking for this event to come, and I'm thinking, okay, it would probably cost a little bit more for venue, food, whatever, but then you have to take into account travel, hotel, me eating, before and after the event while I'm there. Some cities I stayed in maybe a day or two because I wanted to sightsee. One year we had 3 stops in 3 different states. So Joanne, who's also, she was on episode 5. She was the MC. So, literally we traveled, I think it was Montgomery, Alabama to D.C. to Philly, 3 states. Okay, D.C. is not a state. But, 3 different areas in the span of 7 days. That's a lot of travel, right?
Right.
That costs money. It costs money, plane tickets. We rented a car because we decided to drive from D.C. to Philly instead of, getting on the train or something. So then we had to pay for another hotel while we were there. I'm saying all this to say, when you start thinking of what goes into your business, there's a lot of expenses that don't come to mind from that. You can start a business under $100. I hate when they say that because they're not taking into account registering your business with your state. Even a DBA can be anywhere from $25 to $50 depending on where you live. So that could be half, a third to half of your $100. Then you want to make sure that you have insurance if you need to have insurance. And I'm not talking about health insurance. I'm talking about business liability insurance. If you have to buy equipment, if your business is doing webinars, then you may want to get Webinar Jam or, go to meetings, something like that. That costs. That's not free, If you need business cards, those costs. Yeah. So all these things start to add up that you're not thinking about when they say, oh, you can launch a business in 30 days for under $100. That's a lie. It's a lie.
Yeah.
It is a lie because there's so many hidden costs. So here's how we paid for Fusion Tour. I was going through these classes at Prairie View's continuing education program. So this is something for those who may not have a SCORE, which is it's like a SCORE is like a SBA type of organization where they provide free classes, business classes. Okay, so several colleges around Houston and and around the country, what happens? They get money from the government to teach certain classes to the community. A lot of them are free business classes. So in the summer of 2012, I was going through a lot of the free classes that Prairie View was offered. And the reason they're free is because the federal government is providing the money to fund the classes. The thing is, they have to have X amount of students in every single class they offer to keep the money coming in. So you want to take advantage of these. You don't have to pay for it. They give you breakfast and lunch. And, they offer some really good classes. So I'm going through the classes through Prairie View. And one of the speakers is this lady from Peoplefund. Peoplefund is an alternative lending organization here in Houston. I mean, not Houston, in Texas. And I'm like, okay, so the lady and I were talking after her session during break, and she was like, oh, you look familiar. And I told her my name. She was like, oh, we're connected on LinkedIn. I was like, oh, okay, cool. So we got to talking. Maybe 2 weeks later, I go to my next class through the continuing education program at Prairie View, and she's there again. So we're talking, we're chatting, and she's doing a giveaway at that particular class on hosting a free financial workshop through Peoplefund. So, I put my name in the hat or whatever. I'm just talking to people, getting to know people. I had just started Winmer Game Changers September 2011. So I hadn't been in business a year. I don't know what I'm doing. I come from being a teacher. So I'm trying to learn. I won the free financial workshop. So I was like, cool, Winmer Game Changers is going to host a free financial workshop. I put it out there. Not a lot of people were interested. Oh, I don't need to know that. Okay, fine, whatever. Guess what we learned at that free financial workshop that I hosted?
What was that?
How to win free money. Peoplefund was doing a contest, and they were giving away $2,000. All those people who did not want to show up to a free financial workshop missed out on an opportunity to apply to win $2,000. So I'm thinking to myself, I can't apply. What am I going to, pitch to them or whatever? Because these are investors in Austin, Austin, Texas. These are real life investors like Shark Tank. So I'm thinking, what can I pitch? And then maybe not even a week later, someone tweeted me and was like, when are you bringing Fusion to my city? And I'm like, what are you talking about? People have been saying that for a few months. And I said, that's what I'll pitch. I'll pitch taking Fusion on tour outside of Houston. So I created the video. I'm answering the questions. And I get a tweet maybe 3 weeks later. I won. And I'm sitting there. I'm like, no, they're lying. There had to be someone else. I'm just sitting there shocked because I'm like, I didn't know what I was saying. I'm sitting there and I'm calculating the numbers, how much it's going to cost per city, how much we have to sell the tickets to recoup money. Like, I'm literally sitting there trying to make sure that the numbers added up.
Right.
Another thing you guys got to remember, you got to make sure those numbers add up because they're looking at that. And so I won. So when I went to Austin to accept the money and the award, I asked one of the investors, how did I win? Because some of these other businesses had really good, they had been in business longer. They had sales out the wazoo, all this stuff. And he said, you knew your numbers. You told us exactly how much everything was going to cost, from the venues, the marketing you were going to put in, the ticket prices, how much it was going to cost to buy stuff that was necessary for each tour stop. He was like, you knew everything as far as the financial breakdown was concerned. And I was like, oh, me watching Shark Tank really did pay off. Me watching Shark Tank really did pay off. And so
right.
I say all this to say, because Ashanti doesn't want to get loans, you don't have to worry about getting loans. You can get grants. They are not just for nonprofits. So Staples, Sam's Club, Chase, Wells Fargo, Chase does a $250,000 one. Wells Fargo does a pretty extensive one. And Wells Fargo doesn't just do their annual one. They also do smaller ones at different conferences. I know Black Enterprise does a pitch competition, and they do a $10,000 financial prize. I'm trying to think. So for those who are like, well, I need this and I need that for my business, look into attending certain conferences that have pitch competitions, even if it's $500. Trust me, if y'all listen to the episode with Joanne, she broke down what you could spend how $600 can be spent in your business. That's episode 5. But I'm saying all this to say there's so many alternatives to getting money to fund your business. Pre-orders. You can do that and, get the money up front and then send the product later. Another way you can get money, Kickstarter campaigns. This is different from GoFundMe. Okay. If you follow me on Facebook, you know how I feel about the GoFundMe campaign.
Yeah.
Y'all know how I feel about the GoFundMe campaigns. Kickstarter or Indiegogo. Indiegogo. We talked a little bit about Indiegogo in episode 10. So Indiegogo, Kickstarter, those are places where you can raise, quote unquote, like seed money. If you don't understand the venture capitalist world, which is very confusing. But Digital Undivided is a great resource if you are a minority or woman-owned minority business in the tech space. Digital Undivided. And I'll have all of these things that I'm telling you, I'll have links to all their sites on my blog, BurnettRFraney.com, so you can go and do the research. But there are so many different alternatives to funding your business without you actually getting a loan and or using your savings. So I just wanted to put that out there because Ashanti brought up something very good. She doesn't want to get a business loan. She doesn't have to. None of us have to until we get to the point where we have that consistent, big, huge, consistent cash flow coming in. Yeah. Then we know, okay, I will be able to really handle this credit line. Now, Peoplefund, Liftfund, places like that, alternative lending sources, they do loans as well. They do them a little bit differently. You may not get as much money, but what you're doing, you're building your business credit so that you can eventually get the huge loans that you need.
Okay.
Yeah. So I always put that out there because I'm like, if I can win $2,000 and I didn't know what I was doing, literally, let me tell y'all how I won the money. I had my webcam on my computer. I typed up a script that answered every question that they said we had to answer, and I literally looked at the webcam and I read the script. That was my submission. It was not fancy. I did not have an introduction. I didn't have all these transitions and music and all that. I literally sat there and read the script on the Word document on the computer while looking at the webcam. So you don't have to be fancy and have these big, huge presentations. They don't really care. All these people care about how you going to make this money back. The difference with the grant, though, you do not have to pay it back. They just want to make sure that you're successful. It's not like a loan. You don't have to give them the money back. What they're doing is sowing into you, and then you're able to go and flourish. I mean, Fusion was 3 years. I mean, $2,000. That went a long way because I knew exactly how that money was going to be spent, And then once I started negotiating, I was able to cut people down. Like this one, the place in Philly, she wanted $1,000 because it was a downtown art gallery in Philadelphia. I didn't know Philly was that expensive, but I was like, look, ma'am, I'm not going to be paying $1,000. We negotiated. I paid $500.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, I negotiated. I was like, look, I could do this in return. So she was like, okay. So you also have to learn how to negotiate. Just because I told them I was going to spend X amount on venue, I saved that money on the venue and we put it elsewhere. You know, we put it elsewhere because guess what? When you're paying for commercials on radio and in newspapers in cities you don't know, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. So you're just sitting there like, okay, I know I need to beef up my marketing in different cities that I'm not known in. So I have to make sure that money is coming from somewhere else. So if I could save $500 on a venue and put that towards marketing, to me it was a better deal. It was a much better deal. So yeah, you brought up a really good point, Ashanti, about with that question, because a lot of people feel stuck because they don't know that there's so many different alternatives out there for money. Okay, so this is my last tip before we wrap up with that. Gary Vaynerchuk was on the Breakfast Club, and you can go to I don't know the Breakfast Club's YouTube channel, but you can go to search the Breakfast Club. You all know DJ MB, Angela Yee, Charlamagne the God, right? So he was on there, and he gave like 3 different ways to make money quick. Now, it's not quick, but it's an alternative for you to make money so that you can now have that money to invest in your business. One of them, and I'll share it, one of them, he said, is go to the dollar store, buy stuff, then put it on eBay or Amazon and sell it for like, 5 times what you spent it. So if you bought it for $1 at the dollar store, sell it for $5 online, you're going to take out your shipping costs. You take out that $1 you spent. Guess what? That's still $2.50, $3 that you made, on something that you went to the dollar store to buy. So you have to think of other ways to fund the launch of your business, the launch of your program. But, again, I have no tips for you guys when it comes to webinars because mine flopped every time. I've learned my lesson. I'm not gonna do one for a very long time. I even have a coach who's trying to get me back to doing. I'm like, you know what? I've learned my lesson. I know that is not my lane, and I'm just not gonna try to get back in there. Okay, that's not my forte. But grants. Now I've done a lot of research. I know grants. I know how to win one. I've done it. I've had friends who won them. I even had a friend who won $1,000 from Sam's Club. She has this online boutique bakery. She does cheesecakes, custom cheesecakes. And she applied for the Sam's grant, and so she won $1,000 or whatever from Sam's Club, and she got a coach from SCORE, I think, for either 6 months or a year. So not only can you get money from some of these places, you can get a coach you don't have to pay for, a business coach. Wow. So we talked a lot about, launching, maybe how long it could take, but I really wanted to talk about the money because Ashanti brought up a really good point. So we're now going to get ready to do our final toast, and that's what we're going to share from our takeaway from today's episode. So I'm going to share first. Okay, so my final toast from today's episode has to go with what Ashanti said about the neighbor. The neighbor started a T-shirt business too. We have to also realize other people have dreams. They may be similar to ours, and so we can't be a little salty, because I've been there too. We can't be salty when we see people we know doing something similar. We have to actually, say, okay, good for you. I wish you luck, and keep it moving. So that's my final toast. We can't be salty. What's your final toast from this episode?
My final toast would have to be what you said about your purpose. Don't chase don't chase after anything that doesn't make you happy. You have to do, well, like you said, figure out who you are and dig deep to find out what truly, truly makes you happy, and not just what people say, well, this is your purpose or this is your calling and this is what you should do. It's not always, like you said, chasing a purpose is for money. It could be something totally different.
And we are going to talk about who you are versus what you do in episode 8. So definitely that's something I can't wait. Well, I want to say thank you to Ashanti. Like I said, we've known each other since we were teenagers, early 20s.
Uh-huh.
This has been a Toast to Truth with Bernetta Arfreni, chatting it up with my good friend Ashanti Atkins about launch success and flops. And thank you for listening to this week's episode.